So AOC is ripped for attending elite Met Gala in the Tax the Rich dress. Now, the funny thing about it is that, one, this is an event held for basically the elite, right? Where basically a ticket costs like $33,000. But what's also interesting about this, and a lot of people don't actually even understand this, and you might not even understand this when you clicked on this or checked this out, is that AOC herself is in fact, guess what? Rich, right? A lot of people don't understand that, but she's actually rich, right? She makes a very large income. Now, the funny thing about this as well, if you've checked out, I believe there was a release of, because basically this is public information for her, for taxes, right? Is that she's supposed to be making about nearly $200,000 a year, but on her tax returns that she has to submit, because it's public information, right? The thing is, if you were to look at it, right, you don't know if she's basically committing tax fraud or she's getting paid in such a weird way, or she's actually just spending every single dime of money that she has, right? Because you have to basically share what stocks you own in a company, whether or not you have any sort of ownership in a company, whether or not you basically own property and all this other stuff, right? And basically it seems like based off basically her tax information that is public information, right, is that she's getting paid like 200 grand, basically roughly supposed to be getting paid about that a year, but is basically living paycheck to paycheck, right? So even though she's technically rich, right, because of her income, she's so financially illiterate that she's living paycheck to paycheck, right? And this is the problem that, this is one of the biggest problems I have with AOC or people who are more on that side, is that a lot of people who lean more to the left side tend to not understand personal finance at all, right? And the thing is, you would want someone who is so good at marketing, someone who is so good at getting attention, you'd want them to basically try to help as many people as possible by saying hey, I know how to not live paycheck to paycheck. I know how to save my money. I know how to get out of debt. I know how to not be stuck with student loans, right? I know how to work hard and make money, right? So that I'm not living a life in poverty, right? And so you want her to be an example of how someone young could potentially, work hard, get a very high paying job, and have a life that you want to live, right? But this is typically never the case. And it's just sad to see someone who's making a large amount of money, basically living paycheck to paycheck, and also making statements like tax the rich, when in fact she is supposed to be rich, right? Think about that, right? When you compare her salary compared to someone who's making minimum wage, she's rich, right? The average income, she's making way more than that. She's rich, right? If you end up stumbling upon this episode, right, she's probably making double or even triple the amount of money that you're making, right? She's rich in your eyes, right? And that's the same thing as someone making $1 million, and then they see people making $2 million or $10 million, right? And saying oh, those people are rich, not me, right? So that's the thing that you got to understand too. When it comes down to the term rich, people are rich compared to where you are at in life, right? So if you're only making $20,000, everyone above you is going to be looking rich, right? If you're making $1 million, guess what? Everyone above $1 million is going to look rich to you, and you're not going to look rich to yourself, right? It's kind of like the same thing as you don't see yourself as fit when you look at the mirror, but anyone who has a nicer six-pack than you is fit, or someone who's less weight than you is fit, right? It's the same thing. It's very hard for people to really look at the mirror, be hey, no, I'm actually rich, or no, I'm actually athletic, or all that kind of stuff, right? But let's get into the story. So the self-proclaimed socialist Rep. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez claimed early Tuesday that it was her responsibility to attend the Met Gala as she was roundly ripped for wearing a couture tax-the-rich dress to the elite bash where tickets cost at least $30,000. Oh, by the way, here's another thing too, right? If you've noticed, a lot of people who say like tax the rich are also people who never really donate to charities. Like, you got to really think about that too. So the maskless Ocasio-Cortez turned heads as she joined other left-wing leaders like Mayor Bill de Blasio at the exclusive New York Bash late Monday, passing by a Black Lives Matter protest against the event taking place outside. She justified wearing her dress by New York-based Aurora James, whom she hailed as a sustainably focused black woman immigrant designer, claiming they were there to kick open the doors at the Met. And before haters get wild, flying off the handle, New York elected officials are routinely invited to and attend the Met due to our responsibilities in overseeing and supporting the city's cultural institutions for the public. She tweeted early Tuesday. I was one of several in attendance in this evening, she noted defensively. Some online suggested that her defensive message was a sign that she already knew the optics on this were going to be really bad, with her attendance quickly getting a dressing down online. What makes at AOC a bigger fraud, the tax the rich dress while she's hanging out with a bunch of wealthy left-wing elites, or the lack of masks after spending the past 18 months as one of the biggest authoritarian mask Karens in the country? Donald Trump Jr. asked. Tax the rich, but first I'm going to go have the time of my life partying with them all at the most extravagant, over-the-top party of the year that is essentially a celebration of richness, Barstool Sports president Dave Portnoy tweeted sarcastically. And actor Michael Rappaport shared a similar message, tweeting, custom tax the rich dress while at the most elitist event in the world. At AOC will soon be rich with a ginormous production deal from somewhere and done with politics, guarantee it, he wrote. Stop treating any of these people like celebrities. They are public servants that work for us. And podcaster CJ Pearson also tweeted about how the face of the Democratic Socialist was wearing a tax the rich dress at a $33,000 per person event exclusively attended by Hollywood elites. She understands irony almost as well as she does economics, he quipped. And human rights advocate Tina Ramirez said it was obscenely out of touch and completely hypocritical of the representative who makes well over double the national average salary and who voted to give herself a pay raise. And many shared images of BML protesters angrily decrying the event from outside, while the socialist leader was smiling at the upscale event, where companies spend around $300,000 to book a table. Police were creasing people's heads outside, while you and your friends were nibbling watermelon tarts with smoked yuzu soy on panipuri crackers, tweeted Andre Dumis, a member of Black Alliance for Peace. And AOC allegedly did not pay for her ticket. It is still unclear who invited her to the gala. So again, it's just interesting because again, the problem is she's so good at marketing, right? Like, she's very good at marketing. Like, this is extremely smart of her in the marketing sense to get her name out there and for it to stay out there. The problem is when you're promoting stuff that she's promoting and she does these things and she makes more money than the average person and asks for a pay raise and lives paycheck to paycheck because she's so financially literate. It's just bad, right? Like, you want someone in her position to promote something to really help people, but by doing the things that she's doing, like, and the things that she's literally doing, right? Not just saying, but also literally doing, is actually a really bad example because you're basically showing as an example to others, like, hey, I make a whole lot of money. I need to make more money. And also, I'm extremely bad with my money, right? And I'm so bad with my money that I'm going to blame people who make more money than me, who are better at managing money than me, for my troubles and everyone else's troubles, right? It's like, no, like, stop putting the blame on other people. It's like, hey, like for her specifically, right? As an example, she could easily become a millionaire compared to so many other people, right? But she could lead as an example. It's like, hey, do these things so that you're out of debt, you're not living paycheck to paycheck, and you can become a millionaire. But no, she constantly promotes blaming other people than just taking control of your own money, right? And here's the thing, you can live a good life, a safe life, a well-off life by simply spending less money than you make, not having debt, and getting out of debt if you do have debt, putting money into an emergency fund, and steadily putting money every single month consistently towards investments for your future, right? And anyone of any income level can go and do that, and she could lead by example, showing that people can go and do that, right? But when you have someone like her in her position making a crazy amount of money and basically being paycheck to paycheck, it's just a bad example, and people underneath her are going to think like, well, if she can't make it, then how can I make it? And it's just a really bad example for people to see, right? You want to see someone that you could look up to doing well and you could learn from them. So it's just sad to see someone like this who is so good at marketing but so bad when it comes to personal finance in all aspects, and she blames other people for that fact, right? So that people who follow her are also going to end up blaming people that she blames, right? Even though, if we're going to go based off that statement, tax the rich, she falls in line to that statement for the majority of the people that end up following her, because guess what? Compared to their income, she is rich.